Hey everybody, Strangers103 here, and welcome to all you need to know about the Großer Kurfürst armor layout, the Tier 10 German battleship. So let's get straight to it with the armor of the Großer Kurfürst. In this video, we're going to show you a little bit of midway AP bombing. It's not really vulnerable to being citadel by a midway AP, so don't worry too much about them. Although I've been told like Graf Zeppelins to completely delete them. Then again, Graf Zeppelin kind of does that to most things. But how can you citadel the Großer Kurfürst? What's the best way of dealing high damage to the Großer Kurfürst? Can you destroy the gun turrets and deal damage to the ship at the same time? Let's answer these questions in this video. Let's get straight to it. The Extremity armor. It's the same standard 32mm, but the area where that standard armor does cover isn't actually that big. You can see this behind the bow and deck is 50, and it's a long way in front of the gun turret, so it's only halfway out to the, probably even more like 60% of the frontal deck is covered by 50mm, which means that normal no 8-inch cruiser, no 203mm gun cruiser will be able to HE pen that. Only the 20.37 centimeter German HE will just pen right through that because they have the caliber by 4 rule. And also it means that no AP shell will automatically lull pen that. Yamato will lull pen this. And then we look at the lower plate, 60mm here and 120 double that behind. So you have this really, really strong frontal bow section here, which is really big as well. Meaning that a bow on shot, a Yamato is going to have a really hard time. Sure, this is a little bit of 32mm plating here, but I wouldn't really count on it. And of course, if you do have a Yamato, you do hit it up here, it's just mostly going to go in. It's not going to hit anything critical. But yeah, having a look at the main belt armor, we can see the yellow strip up there, 150mm. It's got a complete tapering belt all the way up the freeboard. It tapers down to 280 and then 150 above the 380 main belt, which isn't really up front that thick. And then at the back, we have this 120mm off and area that covers the rudder room underneath it as well. Although it's 32mm flat there, so if you do have a completely flat ass on Kurfürst and you're shooting it with the Yamato, you can lull pen right through that. And this is where it gets interesting because the rear warship is 200mm and the front warship is 220mm. But having a look internally, we can see the turtleback, which the German battleship armor layout is most known for. This is 150mm of highly sloped armor plating internally in the Großer Kurfürst, protecting the 45mm citadel torpedo bulkhead. But to be able to reach that 45mm of citadel torpedo bulkhead, you have to shoot, on a complete broadside that is, you have to shoot through 380mm of armor. If you shoot it near the engineering, it's not very well sloped, so let's just say 380mm, let's just say 400mm of armor. And then you have to add the 150mm plating here, which is sloped incredibly well at a complete flat broadside shot. I would say that's around about 60 degrees, which pretty much means you're just going to deflect off it, and if you don't deflect off it, it's 300mm, so that's 700mm plus. And of course, not to mention, if your shells do alter their course after piercing armor inside, and this is one thing that I really would like to know from wargaming, is that does the shell actually physically have its course altered? So let's say it hits here, it hits this this sloping here, the very front of the 380mm plating there. When it goes in, if it's supposed to normalize towards the normal of this plate, does that mean that the shell is going to be spat out at a really awkward angle after entering it, and therefore not really be able to reach and penetrate the 150 there, and then go through the 45? But anyways, continuing on with the armor layout. The way to actually citadel the Großer Kurfürst when he's angled towards you, when he's completely broadside, it's not really doable. Even if it is giving you an upskirt, it's really, really awkward and difficult to try to get a shot into that citadel. The belt does extend pretty far into the water. And in a hard turn, it doesn't really expose too much above water for you to really be able to contest. But it's basically through this 220mm plate and then through the bow. If you look at it this way, it's 120mm here, and then into the 220mm there. And if we hide away all the rest of the stuff, we can see that inside of the bow armor here, it's just 120mm. There's nothing really too fancy there. So it's 120mm of armor straight into the choke. 220mm citadel there, and that's sloped at around about 45. It's be like 350mm in thickness, plus 120 slope, say 45 as well. So you're not really talking much more than about 500-ish, 550 at most millimeters of armor, depending on the angle. However, the important thing here to remember is that this 120 is more than 32, which means that you're not really going to lull pen it. which does mean that if you do catch this plate at a really awkward angle, say like this, sure, you're easily going to be able to penetrate that if you get to reach it, but the problem is you're not really going to reach it. This plate is just going to auto-deflect your ammunition. On the other hand, if you get too much on the broadside of the vessel, sure, you'll easily go to the 120mm, that's about 150 at best in armor effective thickness, line of sight. However, this blade is now so incredibly well angled, you're not going to be able to perforate this. It's going to automatically deflect your shell. But you might then think, hold on, can't you just shoot through the 120 and then shoot through the 45 there? And you can see if I aim, look, right there, there's just 45 behind it. There's a little bit of triangle here. It's actually a bit rectangular, but if you look, consider this kind of a triangle there, right? It's still kind of square-like. Whatever, you get my point. But it's not really big. But you might be thinking, hold on. Well, yeah, you still have a warship there, and this is the warship triangle I'm talking about. You still have to go through this 220mm there, which is a part of the warship, which isn't demonstrated and visible by looking at it like this. You have to look inside of the bow like this, and you'll see it right there. Which does mean that you'd have to go about through the same amount of armor, because shooting at this kind of an angle, the more towards this side you shoot, the less the angle, the more towards the outside of it, the larger the angle that you're actually hitting by a little bit. But yeah, that pretty much covers most of the quirks of the Großer Kurfürst armor layout. You can see it's a reasonably homogeneous kind of plate. It's not like the Yamato, which has like unique hanger plating modeled at the back and a giant hanger that you can kind of drop shells through and get full penetration damage, and even occasionally citadels off it. It's reasonably smoothly laid out, and the superstructure is standard 19mm, pretty big. Frontally though, one thing to be aware of is the thickness of your gun turret armor. 400mm, it's really, really weak, and it's also incredibly boxy and flat. These turrets are incredibly easy to knock out, and if that's not bad enough, your barbettes are 380mm on the upper area. You can see how weakly armored they are and how easy it is for even cruisers to be able to penetrate these things at incredibly close ranges. Do be aware of that. Inside is 150mm, again, just to show you the barbettes. You can see 220mm barbettes overall, same for the rear turrets. You can see that the armor layout of the gun housing and the ammunition handling facilities isn't really that good. So if you do catch it completely broadside, shooting it straight through here, you can deal full damage to the ship and also be able to cause damage to the gun housing and knock out some gun turrets. But let's demonstrate this to you guys in the training rooms for you guys to see how it works up against static targets. Hey, and welcome to the training room demonstration of the Großer Kurfürst armor layout. We're going to be using the Kronstadt as the shooter in this case. I think it's a pretty representative thing. Little tip: if you're shooting at the Kurfürst, or mostly the German battleships with their stronger bow, basically, if you're shooting at them angled, no matter the range, basically, take the center point of the ship and the bow and kind of imagine a scale here, or the stern if you're shooting it the other way, like if you're chasing after one and he's kiting away. Basically, where you want to land your shells is, that's, a complete bow onto him is 0, and where you want to hit the shells with a complete broadside is, of course, in the central area, as we saw in the armor layout. In this case, I'd say we're about 45 degrees off to him. Actually, no, it's more like, if that's the normal, that's the bow. So we're about 15-20 from him. The rule of thumb is take the 0 to 90 degree area, consider that to be 100% scale, and then take that 100% scale, and if you're the more to the broadside, the more up to the middle you aim, and the more towards the bow angle, the more you want to drop the shells into the bow. Take that scale, so if we're about 15 degrees, which would put us at around about like 18% of the of this area. So divide that, and I'll just say 20. So that's the halfway point of the ship with the funnels, and that's the bow. We're going to want as 100%, 0%, 100%. Well, 0% here and 100% here. We're going to be wanting to shoot just around about here. That's a little general rule of thumb of where you want to place your shots for the optimum amount of damage. In this case, if we see 6 hits, 6 penetrations. Of course, if we shoot him here, we'll still achieve the 6 penetrations and whatnot. But yeah, let's just say aim a little bit farther towards the front here. Of course, the question here is really in the long term, it's a matter of saturation. You can see we actually get deflected onto the gun turret. If you're fully bow onto one, don't even bother shooting AP, like, it's just gonna bounce, and it's pretty much a complete waste of ammunition, as you'd expect. Let's just demonstrate it, and there you go, blink, it all bounced. Anyways, as I also showed you guys in the armor layout of the Großer Kurfürst, once you start getting to around about 45 degrees angle, and if we were to look at this from above, it becomes a little bit more clear in a way. Once you get this little 45-degree angle around about here, if we are able to shoot shells, and you can see again the wave breaker here. Oh, I actually don't know the exact term for that. If someone is actually, knowledgeable about it, please do tell me. Basically, as we know, the citadel of warship is here. The citadel bulkhead goes around about the width here. And you have this little 220mm warship here into the 45mm on the side of there, ignoring the main belt armor, which starts at the bottom here. So, with that information in mind, we want to be dropping shells around about here for potential citadels. So we can see that 27,810 damage with 2 citadels and a grand total of 6 out of 9 hits. Of course, as this angle starts getting higher and higher, then of course we're going to have a harder and harder time penetrating the 220mm warship, as we're just going to start getting deflections of it, and that would only have been our rear turret in a position to citadel the Großer Kurfürst. So now, with only our front turrets, we're way too angled against the this one. You can see we're basically at the moment with our front turrets aiming almost in at the broadside. So while we may be able to get full penetration damage if we can actually get the shells to land, okay, we'll use a number 3 turret. You see, we're just getting penetration damage because the angles are too much broadside. And again, following the little rule of thumb of shooting these things, the optimal place to shoot them at this kind of a place would be around about here. Whereas if you're more, angled further away, then the optimal, say for example, in this kind of an area, we can see that we are around about, let's just bring it up into free cam. We can see that the angle of our front turrets do come in at around about a 45-degree angle. Perhaps a little bit sharper than that. So they're, let's say about 55 degrees angle, so 0, 100, 55 degrees angle would mean that you would want to shoot at around about here. And in this case, our front guns, if they actually land in the correct area, could potentially actually citadel the Großer Kurfürst. Would have to aim around about here. So the general rule of thumb for shooting at German battleships, so a lot of battleships, but most of the German ones with their tapered belt on their bow sections. And there we go, triple citadel. And following that rule of thumb, you can see again 0, 100. We're a little bit above the 45 degree angle, so we'd have to shoot a little bit above the 50% area of the ship, and that's exactly around about here. And we're getting the full damage against it. It's not really a reliable thing, like I did demonstrate. The target profile is pretty damn small. Another thing you can do if you do get close to a Großer Kurfürst like this, not that I would really recommend it, you're going to be facing the wrath of those secondaries, and the main guns certainly are nothing to scoff at. If you do end up in a complete flat broadside like this, the optimum theoretical damage is obviously shoot here. More superstructure that if your shells do go too high, you'll still hit. But if you're in a really close pass like this and your dispersion is good enough, shoot it in this kind of an area. As you can see, we're still getting the full damage. We've saturated it by now, by the way. But we also jammed the gun turret in this case. We're dealing the full AP damage against them. Of course, if you start getting saturations, then you may want to, for example, look at targeting a different area of the vessel. But it's better to shoot it here for still penetration and full damage until you saturate it, while also being able to impact, as we saw, in this case it's 380, 280, and then 150 on the belt there, but also the 220mm of barbette armor that's behind it, which covers the gun turret barbette housing, which means you can jam the gun turret above it by shooting into the barbette, while still being able to deal good damage to the vessel. Now in this case we've just done too much damage to this Großer Kurfürst here, but yeah. Let's take the one behind it. It's much better than, for example, shooting at the Extremity, the number 1 or number 4 gun turret housing. You can see we didn't really do much damage there. Sure, we got a bunch of overpens, but that's not really the kind of damage that we're looking for when you want to, shoot someone in the broadside and also try to incapacitate their turrets. Of course, the exact same would apply to the frontal gun turret. This one over here, you can see some of them went into the previous one, but we're not really jamming the gun turret, and we're not really dealing damage to the ship yet, so it's kind of just a waste of effort. Yeah, the number 2 and number 3 gun turrets, they have a little bit of superstructure next to it, so you can shoot them in through this kind of an area, jam the gun turret, and still deal some reasonable amounts of damage. But in the end, the recommended course of action is still to try to shoot into the lower ends here, and to be able to deal the full damage to the ship and the full damage to the, well, at least good damage to the gun turret housing. Although in general, if you don't really want to catch yourself in a close pass like this, because it generally doesn't really necessarily yield too good results for you in the fight. Yeah, the rear citadel of the Großer Kurfürst is pretty much the same. Let's see if we can't actually be able to pull off a shot like that with our... Yep, there we go, citadel to kill. Exact same thing in the back. Slightly weaker armor there, 120 to 200 with warship instead of 220, so it's a little bit less to have to go through. There you go, that pretty much covers the Großer Kurfürst armor layout in terms of shooting at it with cruisers, battleships, and surface combatants. After this, we'll quickly get a look at some aircraft carrier bombing. There we go, with some AP dive bombers for the first one. What we're going to do is to drop near the gun turrets. You can see with US AP dive bombers, you can see that one actually deflected off the gun turret housing. And this one, we're going to drop a little bit more centered towards the engineering. You can see, again, 4 hits for 4 penetrations, no citadels off that. Of course, you wouldn't really be dropping them sideways on like this in actual random battles, but the point that I'm trying to make is that this thing isn't really vulnerable to the Midway's AP dive bombers. And what that means is AG dive bombers are going to give you a lot better use overall. You'll set more fires. Well, obviously you'll set fires in the first place because you're not going to get the citadels. And what that means in general is that AG bombs, you can kill the 8 total mounts of 5.5cm anti-aircraft heavy autocannons rather quickly, and that does really severely restrict the Großer Kurfürst anti-aircraft ability into the later stages of the game. And of course, if the damage control party fires, you go for the standard aircraft carrier flooding damage over time.